It's my regular boxing book slot now. We've had Kevin Mitchell and Jacobs Beach, Errol Christie and How I Put the Black in the Union Jack, Thomas Hauser with his Carver Boyd novel, Aidan McKindy with his Frankie DePaula book, and tonight an old friend and one of the best boxing writers of his generation joins me to look at his new book. The book is called Liston and Ali, The Ugly Bear and the Boy Who Would Be King, published by Mainstream, same people that bought out my novel The Fixer, ooh, nice plug, and written by Bob Mee. I spoke to Bob earlier and started by asking him that surely there is nothing left to know about Liston and Ali.
Well, I thought I knew everything about it as well, but as soon as I started to investigate the cuttings I'd got and the contemporary sources, I realised I knew about 30% of it. So I thought, well, other people might like to know what I'd found, really. And I started on the writing, and it just seemed to snowball.
Well, you know what, Bob? I mean, I feel like I've been a part of this book because I get a mention in the very start because we both visited Muhammad Ali's house in Louisville on the same day, although in different cars. And you're absolutely right. You know, everyone seems to think they know everything about Liston and the Phantom Punch and the injured shoulder and the mob life and about Ali and about this and about that. But what you've done here, Bob, and I'm not just saying this because I've known you a long time and I respect you. You've gone and you've found stuff. You've found stuff I didn't know about, stuff I hadn't even thought about. You found some absolute nuggets. Now, I know this must have been a pleasure for you to put together and write. Yeah,
it was. I mean, the first thing I remember about Liston and Ali was my dad getting me out of bed when I was about 10 years old, and we tiptoed downstairs into the kitchen to listen to the broadcast on the radio, and we're going down the stairs and he's saying to me, "Shush, don't make a row, you'll wake your mother." I could remember that right from then, and I remember wanting Liston to win and not knowing why. And it was a part of my culture from then. It was always there. And for those 16 months, it was heavyweight championship boxing, and that's what I wanted to know about them. But I didn't know the half of it. I didn't even begin to understand it until I began this search.
I mean, and some of the stuff, and I've seen it before, the Kefaufa hearing stuff is just brilliant when they're grilling Liston, or they're trying to grill him. You know, there's all these incredibly smart white men in their suits, and they're grilling this guy, and he's just giving them absolutely basic answers. When they're asking him about education, I'll just read you a little bit from this, because I've got to do this, Bob. When they says, "How much education did you get?" Liston says, "I didn't get any." Then Kefaufa says, "You didn't get any?" Liston says, "No, sir." Then Kefaufa says again, "You didn't go to school at all?" And Liston says, "No, sir." That's just... And then the Kefaufa says, "You didn't have much opportunity, I guess." And Liston says, "Too many kids." Kefaufa, "How many kids were there?" "Well, my father had 25. And then Kefaufa goes, 25 children? Oh, it's just staggering stuff, Bob, isn't it?
Yeah, I think Liston, when he was faced with authority, he did what he always did. In the Kefaufa hearings, he gave them what he thought they wanted to know, and he was polite and he was defensive, but he could give them answers that he thought they'd be satisfied with, so it would end as quickly as possible. He even told them he was born in Pine Bluffs, Arkansas. According to his mother, he'd never been there. So, you know, he gave them what he thought they should know.
Now, you did take a journey, didn't you, with a friend of ours? You sort of went off to somewhere where, in theory, he could have been born, very close to where he was born.
Yeah, I
did. Sort of got out of the car and sort of tried to breathe it in. Tell me about that, Bob.
Yeah, we had a slack day when there was a fight on in Little Rock, Arkansas, and it was not too far up the road from there. So we went up to look to see what was about, just to get a feel of the place, as you say. And the cotton fields were still there, the creeks were still there, the barrenness of it. We were driving along the road trying to find roughly where we would be, and the sat-nav stopped working. We went off onto dirt tracks. There were a few old shacks about, no people, nothing. And you got a real feeling, steps out of the car, you got a real feeling that what it must have been like to grow up there in that barren place where you couldn't have known very much, especially if you were illiterate and you'd no education at all. Just get out in the fields, boy, and pick cotton, pick the whatever it is that's in season. And you'd no much sense of the past, not really any sense of the future, and it was an amazing experience to go there.
It seemed it. Now, if we just switch now to Ali, we all know about winning the medal, although you brilliantly break that down and show just how good those opponents are, which I know is out there in various books. You can go and, you know, trawl through them. I mean, be honest with you, Bob, between the two of us, I mean, about 5 years ago, I sent literally 60 or 70 boxing books to one of the charity shops, because I worked out I didn't need that many at the end of the day. I didn't, with Box Rec on site for the website for records, I didn't need that many books. In fact, they were cluttering my judgment, so I got rid of an awful lot. And certainly this would be one that never ends up there. And I tell you what I particularly like, and some people may not know too much about this, was the Louisville sponsoring group, the group that finally did the deal with Arlie and the breakdown of those characters. I tried to track some of them down, you know, when we were in Louisville for various fights. They were an interesting group of human beings, weren't they?
They were, yeah. I mean, it seemed like somebody had a bright idea that they might sign this young local heavyweight because he'd been rumoured to have gone with another businessman who'd paid for him to stay in the Waldorf Astoria in New York when he came back from the Olympic Games, and that deal apparently broke down because he wanted to keep Joe Martin, the businessman wanted to keep Joe Martin, the trainer from the amateur days. Ali's Cassius Clay, as he was then, his father didn't want anything to do with that, and so that all broke down. And then this group suddenly appeared of businessmen who were obviously very astute, but they were an odd bunch. They were like something out of a movie set. They
looked like something from a black and white film. All the pictures I've seen look that way, and any little bit clips of film you see, Bob, you're expecting Gregory Peck to wander in at any second.
Yeah, they're odd. I mean, they're very strange. I don't know quite how it worked. I mean, one guy said he'd read a boxing book recently, but he couldn't remember the title. You know, they didn't know what they thought it was a good idea, and one of them told the other one, "You should be involved in this," and okay, all right. And he owned a radio station, so that helped a bit with the kind of control of the publicity that was going on locally. And between them, somehow they got it done.
There's also I like that stuff about the clause that Liston insisted or wanted to have, or maybe did get in. I can't remember exactly, about the cinemas being segregated for the screening of their fights. Yeah, now that's a cracking little tale, that, Bob.
Yeah, I was really surprised at that because we've all heard that Liston was apolitical. He didn't want anything to do with.
He hated everybody.
All he was interested in was looking after himself and his wife. And that's what we've all been told and all heard. And as I read, I found out these little nuggets that suggested that in there somewhere was a guy who was not that simple. Yeah. And he'd got a fairly good idea of what. Well, obviously he knew what was going on. He came from Arkansas, but he just had this ability to surprise you at the odd times with his political judgment. Just occasionally. I'm not trying to make him out to be an astute politician or anything like that, but I think he was far more aware and far more interested than people gave him credit for at the time.